I never thought I'd be the kind of person to believe in the supernatural. Ghosts, demons, all that stuff. I always chalked it up to overactive imaginations or worse, people looking for attention. But now I don't know what to think. What I experienced that night is something I can't explain, and I'm terrified to even put it into words. But I feel like if I don't, it will follow me forever. It all started the day I moved into my first apartment. I'm 23, and after months of living with my parents and working a dead-end job, I finally scraped together enough money to rent a small place on the outskirts of town. The neighborhood was quiet, almost suspiciously so. The streets were lined with trees that made shadows dance under the streetlights, and every other house seemed empty, as if the whole area had been abandoned overnight. I didn't care. It was cheap, and it was mine. The building itself was old, a brick apartment complex that smelled faintly of mildew and dust. The previous tenant had left in a hurry, judging by the furniture left behind. But none of that mattered. What mattered was that it was my space now, and I could finally feel like an adult. The first few nights were normal. I unpacked, set up my things, and tried not to notice how eerily silent the building was. Then it started, the noises. At first it was subtle. A creak here, a thump there, nothing out of the ordinary in an old building. But on the third night I woke up to what sounded like footsteps outside my bedroom door. I froze, heart hammering, staring at the door in the darkness. The steps stopped abruptly. I tried to convince myself it was the building settling, that I was imagining things. But when I finally fell asleep again, I dreamt of someone standing at the foot of my bed. I jolted awake. The room was empty. The next day I told myself it was just stress. Moving was hard and I was probably just anxious. But that night it got worse. It started with whispers, faint, almost inaudible. At first I thought it was neighbors, but the sound didn't come from outside. It was coming from inside the apartment. The whispers were incoherent, but there was a rhythm to them, like someone chanting under their breath. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, sweeping the room, checking every corner. Nothing. Just the same furniture I'd unpacked, the same empty closet, the same shadows on the wall. But the whispers didn't stop. They got louder, closer. Then came the scratching. It started at the window, a slow, deliberate scraping like fingernails against glass. I bolted upright, staring at the curtain that fluttered slightly in the breeze. My hand shook as I reached for the window. No one was there. Nothing. I couldn't sleep after that night. I stayed awake until dawn, lights on, listening to the silence that had replaced the whispers. I didn't want to admit it, but I was scared. The next morning I noticed something strange. My apartment door, which I always locked before bed, was slightly ajar. My heart dropped. I would have sworn I locked it. I checked the locks again. They were fine, but the feeling of being watched didn't go away. Then I started seeing things. Shadows that moved when there was no light to cast them. Reflections in mirrors that didn't match my own movements. At first I thought I was losing it, but deep down I knew something wasn't right. One night I decided to record the apartment. I set up my phone in the living room, hit record, and left the lights on. I wanted proof, something I could show someone, anything to convince myself I wasn't insane. When I checked the footage the next morning, my blood ran cold. The video showed the apartment perfectly still for the first hour. Then slowly, a dark figure appeared in the corner of the room. I couldn't make out details, only a silhouette, tall and impossibly thin. It didn't move like a human. It didn't blink or breathe. It just stood there, staring at the camera. I froze, my hands trembling as I watched it step closer, each movement jerky, unnatural. Then it stopped just a few feet from the camera and smiled. Or at least, that's what it looked like. A grotesque, wide, stretching smile that seemed to rip across its face. Then it was gone, just like that. I didn't sleep that day. I didn't eat. I didn't leave my apartment. All I could do was stare at the screen, replaying the footage over and over, hoping somehow it was a trick of the light. But I knew it was. The nights after that, the activity escalated. Doors slammed shut on their own. I'd wake up to find objects moved, sometimes broken. And always the whispers returned louder, more urgent, as if the thing in my apartment wanted me to hear it, wanted me to acknowledge it. And then came the knocking. It started late one night, low and deliberate, coming from the walls. Not a single wall, but all of them at once, like something was trapped inside the building trying to get out. I pressed my ear against the wall. There was a voice, faint but distinct, whispering my name. At that point, I knew I had to leave. I couldn't stay here another night. But when I grabbed my keys and ran for the door, it wouldn't budge. The handle was frozen, locked from the inside, though I live alone. My phone died, despite being fully charged an hour ago. And then the room went cold. I turned around and saw it, the figure from the video. Only now it wasn't just in the corner, it was everywhere. Shadows flickered across the walls, crawling like liquid, converging into a shape that resembled a man, but wrong, all wrong. The smile, the eyes, empty black voids that seemed to stare straight through me. It whispered again, my name, over and over, closer, louder, until it was inside my head. I tried to scream, I tried to run, but I couldn't move, I was paralyzed. And then it spoke clearly, in a voice that was both my own and not my own. You shouldn't have come here, it said. I woke up the next morning on the floor, bruised, exhausted, and drenched in sweat. The apartment was quiet again. The door worked. The lights worked. Everything was normal, too normal. I don't know how I'm still alive. I don't know why it let me go. But I know one thing, I'll never go back there. And I'll never forget what I saw that night. Because sometimes, when the wind is right, I can still hear it whispering my name. I tried to tell myself it was over, that whatever had haunted me that night at Willow Lane was gone. I moved into a new place, a small apartment in the middle of town. No shadows creeping in corners, no whispers that clawed at my mind. The neighbors were friendly, the streets alive. For a while I felt safe. But safety is a lie. It started subtly at first. Little things, my keys not where I left them, a chair slightly turned, the faint smell of something burning when I was alone. I chalked it up to absent-mindedness, stress, a leftover paranoia from my last apartment. But deep down I knew better, something was following me. One evening I was lying on my couch scrolling through my phone when I heard it, a whisper, soft, almost indecipherable. I see you. I froze. The voice didn't sound like anyone I knew. It was hollow, echoing like it had traveled through miles of tunnels just to reach me. I scanned the apartment. Nothing. No one. I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was a prank, a neighbor's microphone picking up my voice from some app. But then my lights flickered, briefly plunging me into darkness. And that's when I saw it in the reflection of my TV screen, a figure standing behind me just beyond the edge of the couch. Tall, thin, motionless. Its face was hidden, but I felt its eyes on me. I spun around, nothing. I don't know why, but I laughed nervously, like a fool trying to convince himself he wasn't scared. I went to the kitchen to make tea, shaking so badly I nearly spilled boiling water on myself. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. And then I heard it again, the whisper, louder this time, you can't hide. I ran to my bedroom, locked the door, and tried to rationalize. I needed proof. I needed evidence. I grabbed my phone, opened the camera, and started recording the apartment again. I wanted to catch it in the act. Hours passed. Nothing. I dozed off for a short while. When I woke, I noticed my phone screen had gone black. Dead. I tried to turn it on, nothing. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw the chair in the corner of my bedroom slowly turn by itself. I screamed, my voice raw and panicked. The figure emerged from the shadows. Its body was impossibly tall, its movements jerky, unnatural. And that face, I can't even describe it without feeling sick. Empty, twisted like a mask made of darkness. It grinned. Not a normal grin, its mouth stretched in ways no human mouth should, as if it wanted to consume more than just my fear. I backed up against the wall, but it was too late. It lunged not at me, but through the wall. It vanished, just gone. I didn't sleep that night or the next. Over the following days, the activity escalated. My reflection in the mirror started acting independently. Sometimes I'd see the figure behind me mimicking my movements, grinning. Other times, objects would fly across the room, books, plates, even my laptop thrown against walls with precision. I stopped leaving the apartment. I stopped answering calls. I barely ate. I tried to call for help once, but my phone wouldn't work. Every time I dialed, I'd hear a whisper in the receiver, right in my ear. Don't call, don't leave, stay. One night I had no choice but to confront it. I set up candles in a circle, hoping, foolishly, that some ritual or protection could help me. I spoke out loud, demanding it to show itself. And it did. It appeared at the edge of the candlelight, a shadow taller than my ceiling, limbs twisting unnaturally, its face that face. It didn't speak. It didn't move like a human. It drained the air like the room itself was shrinking. I could feel my lungs burning. My heart felt like it would explode. Then it whispered my name slowly, deliberately. You belong to me. I screamed. I ran toward the door, but it slammed shut before I could reach it. The windows wouldn't budge. Every light in the room went out. I was trapped in total darkness. And then I heard it moving inside my head, not outside, inside, every thought, every memory being twisted. I collapsed onto the floor, sobbing, begging it to leave. And then silence. When I woke up, I was on my couch. Daylight streamed through the windows. Everything looked normal, too normal. The apartment smelled like my tea from 2 days ago. My phone worked. I called a friend. I went outside. I laughed nervously, trying to convince myself it was all a nightmare. But that night, as I lay in bed, I heard a soft whisper again, barely audible. I'm still here. I realized something horrifying. This wasn't just a haunting, it followed me. It doesn't live in one place. It doesn't need walls or doors. It follows, watches, waits, and now it knows me. I don't know how much longer I can survive like this. Every shadow, every creak, every flicker of light sends my mind racing. I don't leave the house. I don't answer the door. I'm trapped not by walls but by fear. And tonight it's coming closer than ever. I can feel it outside my bedroom door, waiting, whispering, smiling. I don't know what it wants, but I know one thing, whatever it is, it isn't human, and it won't stop.